Jacob and Israel. You know, I grew up always hearing that whenever God referred to Jacob, he was referring in the negative sense, and when he was calling him Israel, that was in the positive sense. And that just doesn't hold up to the scrutiny of Scripture at all. But another one of those, you know, kind of negative outlooks on the life and the person of Jacob. But just wanted to say that. I know I'm finding it hard to believe that we're already almost halfway between the fall feast and the spring feast again. Like when we were in Sukkot, I was thinking, boy, it's a long way off till Passover, and you know, here we are already about halfway through. Just seems like time's flying by. But we are here in the month that's called Kislev. It's the 9th month on the biblical calendar, the 3rd month on the civil calendar. And there's a lot of meaning behind the word Kislev, and several ways you could look at it or translate it. But I just want to look at the simple makeup of the word and kind of start there. The word kis can mean pocket, a purse, or a bag. And if you think about it, the purpose of a pocket or a purse or a bag or something like that is to carry something, right? And lev, the word lev is heart. So you could say it's like the pocket of the heart, maybe, or that which carries the heart, or maybe that which the heart carries. So I don't think it's any coincidence that the month wound up with this name, with what kind of aligns up with what we have as a December. This month is also called the month of dreams. One reason for this is in the Torah portions that fall during this month. There's a lot of dreams that are recorded. We have Jacob's dream of the ladder, or the stairway to heaven. We have another dream of his when the Lord is calling him to return back to the land. We have Laban's dream of warning, Joseph's dream of rule and authority, the baker's dream of death, the cupbearer's dream of life, Pharaoh's dreams of plenty and famine. So there's a lot of dreams that are taking place in these Torah portions. And dreams, usually when we think about it, they happen at night. During the dark, when we're sleeping. And the month is also called the month of darkness and light. And it falls during the darkest part of the year, when darkness seems to have more rule and authority than the light does. But it's also a month of light as well, because the month is also known as the month of rededication or dedication. So the word dedication in Hebrew is Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is known as the festival of light. So during the midst of darkness, we also have light. And we can find this idea of rededication or dedication in this week's Torah portion. In chapter 35, we already read this. And in my Bible, it has a subheading over it called the rededication at Bethel. So in chapter 35 and verse 1, God said to Jacob, "Get up, go up to Bethel and stay there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So God here is commanding Jacob to go up and kind of, in a sense, rebuild the altar. He had already, at this location, set up a stone, poured oil upon it. And God's calling him to go back up there and almost, in a sense, rededicate. Sounds familiar, right? a little bit like Hanukkah. But this Torah portion continues where we left off last week. And that was on the theme of, the journey home, going home. God's calling Jacob to go home. And there's a lot of application, I think, in this Torah portion. We have an application of Jacob in, a direct application to this time and place, God calling him home. We can look at the application to Israel, journey back to the land, and really every believer's called to go home. We're all on a journey home, right? Anybody else find that this walk of faith that we're on is a tough one and a challenging one? But this particular month, anybody else find that this particular month is most challenging? It can be challenging facing these two holidays that fall in this month, or three, and it's a challenge sometimes with our children. I know I have that challenge. Sometimes in our families, our co-workers, our culture in general. This month it's kind of everywhere. No matter where you go, if I go to just check out, I'm like, oh no, here we go again. Gonna have to deal with it in some way or form. And I know we can all be on a different path, not a different path, but a different place along the path in dealing with some of these things. But, it's all part of the journey. It's all part of going from where we were to where we're going. Chapter 32, verse 4, Jacob sent messengers before him to his brother Esau to the land of Seir, the field of Edom. He also commanded them, saying, "This is what you should say to my lord, to Esau. This is what your servant Jacob said. I've been staying with Laban and have lingered until now. Now I've come to possess oxen and donkeys, flocks, male servants, female servants. I sent word to tell my lord, in order to find favor in your eyes." The messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We went out to meet your brother, to Esau, and he's also coming out to meet you, and 400 men with him." So Jacob became extremely afraid and distressed, and he divided the people with him, along with the flocks and herds and camels, into two camps, for he thought, if Esau comes to one camp and strikes it, the camp that's left will escape. This journey we're on, no one says it's easy. There's challenges. And when you think about it, fear really can overtake us. Fear can conquer and divide us, can prevent us from doing what we need to do. When you look at Jacob's fear here, his fear was actual death. He had a fear that Esau could come up, strike him and his whole family down, and there'd be no survivors. When you think of the fear that Israel had at this time during this month of dedication, they too had the same fear that if they obeyed God and went on that journey home, that they could face an actual physical death. And you think about our fear that we can have during times like this, it can cause us to, kind of like here, break into camps. And we can split among ourselves, or sometimes we can even split in ourselves. I know I struggle with this sometimes. I can be one camp or one person around a certain group of people. God forbid I change into somebody else and act differently around another group of people, all out of fear. And Jacob had this here. It says, he was extremely afraid and distressed. But then he does what we really should do when we're faced with that. He prays. And Jacob said, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, Adonai, who said to me, 'Return to your land to your relatives, and I will do good with you. I am unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and all the dependability that you have shown to your servant. For with only my staff I crossed over this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. Jacob, in this prayer, he does what he needs to do. He realizes and tells God, hey, I'm doing what you commanded me to do. You know, he's acknowledging his dependency on God, God's mercy, God's abundant blessings, that he went out with just a staff, and here he is coming back, and look at all he has. But, you know, on the journey home, there's a lot of things and obstacles that can get into our path. But, you know, when we cry out to God in our distress, prayer changes things. You know, when you look at what happens before and after this prayer, before he has this prayer, he's got this plan that he sends out the servants with, you know, and they could bring word back that, hey, your brother's coming with 400 men with him. And then he comes up with another plan that he's going to send them out into little groups with offerings to try to appease his brother. And then he tells them to tell Esau, hey, Jacob's coming too, way back there someplace. But then something happens here, because when he prays and cries out to God in his distress, and during these difficulties, God answers his prayer. And until I went through this, I never really realized that this, what we call, you know, God or Jacob wrestling with God, with the Lord here this night, that it was an answer to his prayer. And, you know, he had a night with God here. And, you know, whether we look at it from an aspect of he's actually wrestling with God, or whether he's dancing with God, or both, maybe it started with one, ended with another. It's kind of interesting to think of spending this whole night with the Lord. And, you know, this night really changed him. Because if you think about it, what is the worst thing we can fear? The thing that we should fear most of all, is it not when he says, you know, don't fear him who has power over the body and can kill, and after that there's no more, but rather fear him that has power over the soul and body. God is who we should be fearing first and foremost. And Jacob here just survives a night with God, the one that he should fear the most. And, you know, if you think about that, if you can spend a night with God, hear his voice, and live, I have a feeling your fears after that kind of melt away. Because you have just went through the most, what I would call, harrowing experience you could. And we see this here, you know, first, Genesis 32:9, he says, you're to say to your servant, to Jacob, it's an offering sent to my Lord to Esau, and look, he's also behind us. And then after all of this, it completely changes around. Jacob, he himself passed on ahead of them and bowed to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And, you know, what a change. He goes from the back of the line, so to speak, to the front of the line. That fear is dealt with. And I think it's this reunion that's recorded between Jacob and Esau is a very heartwarming one, at least to me. It's one of those that gives you very warm, fuzzy feelings, so to speak, that I think God answered Jacob's prayer in this far beyond what he was expecting. You know, Esau comes running out to meet him, and they hug and they kiss on each other and weep together. And you know, that is the complete opposite of what Jacob was expecting. So then God says after this, later on in chapter 35, verse 1, again, God said to Jacob, "Get up, go up to Bethel and stay there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." But then we have this interesting passage that's recorded after this. So Jacob said to his household and to everyone who was with him, "Get rid of the foreign gods that are among you. Cleanse yourselves, change your clothes." Jacob just spent over 20 years in the heart of paganism, really. Laban was not a God-fearing person. His wives weren't raised in the fear of the Lord. If you remember Rachel stealing her father's idols and bringing those out, and there's several reasons I can think of why she did that. I always kind of pondered on that. Maybe she was stealing them from her father to kind of maybe a little bit out of spite, perhaps. It's like he squandered all their dowries, and maybe it was a way of just saying, see how you fare. Nothing's going to change whether you have your gods or not. Or perhaps, maybe this is a more likely thing, that maybe she too was still clinging on to some things coming out. And there's a lot of things that we cling to, that we can bring with us in our journey, that can influence our life, influence our worship. And we may have different reasons for why we're clinging on to some things, not letting go of some things. But we really have to make that choice, to choose who we're going to serve and to cleanse ourselves. And eventually there comes a point, a day of decision, where if we're going to go any further in the journey, we've got to cut the strings that are still holding us back and purify ourselves, because his reason for doing all of this: "Now let us get up and go up to Bethel, so I can make an altar there to God who answered me in the day of my distress and has been with me in the way I have gone." Dedicate. Dedicate is to dedicate. We can't split our focus. We can hold on to some of the things, some of our traditions and ways of doing things that have all been vanity, or we can let go of things and dedicate ourselves really to the one who's been with us all the way. It wasn't all those things that we've held on to that guided us and watched out after us. There was somebody else all along the way. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods in their hand and the rings in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak tree near Shechem. This wasn't just Rachel, and kind of makes me wonder, Jacob didn't know that Rachel had stolen them at that time. It makes you wonder later on in this journey whether she revealed it to him. Hey, by the way, whether she did or not, I got a feeling it came out here. One way or the other, he knew. And, idolatry really had permeated his camp to different levels. It wasn't just her, it's their hand, their ears. We can have so much unknown idolatry in our own lives and in our worship. But can God still bless? Even though they had all this idolatry with them all the way up to this point, all these years God was still with him, still blessed him abundantly. And that's true with us. Over the last 2,000 years, all the stuff that's crept in to our walk, our parents' walk, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, doesn't mean that God still can't bless through some things. He still can bless, but, they reach this point. If we're going to go any further, are we really ready to go up to the house of God. You know, we say, Bo Yeshua, Bo, come, Lord, we can't wait. But if all of a sudden the Lord just boomed out of heaven right now and he said, okay, I give you a choice. I can come in 5 minutes or I can come in 5 days. You know, what would we answer? You know, choose. If I'm honest with myself, I think I'd take the 5 days because I don't think I'm really ready. I'm not really ready to go up to his house. I don't think I would need that 5 days to stop doing some things I'm doing and start doing some things I should be doing. But in all of that, you know, there's a lot, I want this to be encouraging as well, because, you know, that day will come. In Isaiah 30, it's recorded here, your ears will hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it, when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. You will defile your graven images overlaid with silver, and your metal images covered with gold. You'll throw them away like a menstrual cloth. You will say, be gone. You know, all those things we hold on to, one point we're going to say it's so disgusting, we'll throw it away. You know, the day's going to come, there won't be any more battle with Christmas and Easter and all those things that have crept in. You know, not to step on toes or anything like that, but you know, Christmas is really a kind of a picture of assimilation, in a sense that we're combining darkness and light, putting it together. And I think if we take a look at the world around us, it looks like assimilation wins in that aspect. Things are, you know, said I can look at a lot of things with Christmas and the way the world does it, and I kind of poke a little fun. I was like, oh yeah, I can tell that's all about Jesus. But Hanukkah, you know, the other feast that falls during this month, it's just diametrically opposed to it. That we will not assimilate, we're going to dedicate to the Lord, and he wins. And he's going to win. Now, this is the way, walk in it, when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left. And they journeyed, and the terror of God was on the cities that were around them, so they did not pursue Jacob's sons. Then Jacob arrived at Luz in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, he and all the people who were there with him. And he built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, because God had revealed himself to him there when he fled from the presence of his brother. You know, this falls right on the tail of where two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, had just went out and slaughtered all the men of Shechem because of the way that the way their sister had been treated. And Jacob becomes afraid again and states that, well, now you've made me a stink in the land. All the people that are around, they're going to come out and kill us all. And here we have that the terror of God was on the cities around them, and they did not come out and pursue Jacob's sons. You know, when we are obeying and following him, even when there's obstacles and we may not do things perfectly in order or correct, he still provides and protects. And a lot of times the opposition we're expecting never comes. I know when I'm on so many times in my life and in this walk where I go, okay, if I follow the Lord here, he's, oh no, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This person will be against me, and 99% of the time that stuff just never comes to pass. We were just talking about that last night. My brother and I were discussing that, of all the things that, you know, through this I thought, oh, there's going to be opposition. It never happened. It was just another fear that I had. In Isaiah 41, I just love this. But you, Israel, my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, descendant of Abraham, my friend, I took hold of you from the ends of the earth and called from its uttermost parts and said to you, you are my servant. I have chosen you, not rejected you. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Behold, all who were angry at you will be ashamed and disgraced. Those who quarrel with you will be as nothing and perish. What an awesome promise God made to Jacob and to his people in this. Where God leads, he provides. Jacob was afraid that all were going to come out against him. He was afraid of his brother Esau and what would happen. He was afraid of the peoples around. But, unlike the picture I had of Jacob growing up, that he was the trickster, the liar, the deceiver, the cunning one, really what I see mostly in Jacob is fear. And I would say this, godly fear first. I think he had a fear of the Lord first and foremost. Struggled like we do, but having that fear as number one takes care of all the other issues, all the other fears. Because I don't see anywhere where Jacob really exalts himself, where he thinks of himself as greater than everyone else. Really what I see in him in a lot of ways is humbleness. All who are angry at you will be ashamed and disgraced. Those who quarrel with you will be as nothing and perish. Though you will look for those who contended with you, you won't find them. Those who warred against you will be as nothing at all. For I am Adonai your God, who upholds your right hand, who says to you, fear not, I will help you. Now, when you look at Israel today, fear drives a lot of their policy. A lot of the decisions they make are based on fear. And, how does fear drive our policy in our lives? Fear of what our children are going to say or react to our decisions, the rest of our family, our co-workers, our culture again. All that fear, is it going to get in the way of our dedication to God? But here in Isaiah 41, he promises that he's going to take care of those fears one day. And whether I'm able to conquer it completely or not at this time, he promises that the day is going to come where he will take away all our fears. And as they journeyed on, then Rebekah's nurse Deborah died and was buried below Bethel under the oak, so it was named the Oak of Weeping. Alon Bakuth. In this journey, sometimes we suffer loss. Some people desert it. Sometimes we lose loved ones. And the portion we read out of the gospel earlier comes from this, made me think of this as well. Thus says Adonai, a voice is heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children because they are no more. So in that loss, but there's another great promise as we journey home, because it doesn't stop there. Thus says Adonai, restrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work will be rewarded. It is a declaration of Adonai when they return from the land of the enemy. In Revelation, stop weeping. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is worthy to open the scroll and its 7 seals. There's a lot more verses to that effect of weeping stopping. God will wipe away all tears from our eyes. The fears ceasing. I look for it. Those are great promises. God appeared to Jacob again after he returned from Padan Aram, and he blessed him, and God said to him for the second time, "Your name was Jacob. No longer will your name be Jacob, for your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. God also said to him, "I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and an assembly of nations will come from you. From your loins will come forth kings." I love that. A nation, Israel was going to come from him, but an assembly of nations. And look at us here. We all come from so many varied backgrounds and nationalities. And the land that I gave to Abraham and to Isaac, I give it to you and to your seed after you. I will give the land. Then God went up from him at the place where he had spoken with him. Jacob set up a memorial stone, and the place where he had spoken with him, a stone pillar, and he poured a drink offering on it, and poured oil on it. And Jacob named the place where God spoke with him Bethel. In this journey home, Jacob has now, he's conquered his fear. He's overcame the weeping. They've cleansed themselves from the idolatry and those things that were against God. And now, only at this point, can he truly dedicate the house of God. Hanukkah, right here in this Torah portion. I think that's interesting. But, when you look at the life of Jacob, he's not just the forefather of the Jewish people, but he's our forefather too. And we say this every week: you are no longer strangers and foreigners. You are fellow citizens with God's people and members of God's household. All our blessings, everything we experience, almost no matter how you look at it in our life, whether it's the secular blessings we enjoy or spiritual blessings we enjoy, they all come through Jacob and through Israel, ultimately through, our Savior. But Jacob, he is our forefather too. And going back to this idea of Kislev, the pocket of the heart, that which the heart is carrying. I love that in the midst of all these struggles and trials and the things that we face, especially this time of year, that there's a promise for what's going to be in the heart. "Moreover, I will give you a new heart. I will put a new spirit within you. I will remove the stony heart from your flesh, give you a heart of flesh. I will put my ruach within you, cause you to walk in my laws, so you will keep my rulings and do them. Then you will live in the land that I gave to your fathers. You will be my people, and I will be your God." What a great promise that there is there through Jacob. Because how I long for that day when what's really carried in the heart, in my heart, is his Torah, his law, Yeshua fully. That my heart is filled only with him. The month of dreams, another great promise through Jacob. "So it will be afterward, I will pour out my ruach on all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." The time's going to come, we'll be dreaming Jacob's dreams. That we're going to see that stairway. And God calling to us, "Come up, return back. Come up to my house." The month of darkness and light. Another promise through Jacob's life and journey. Out of Zechariah: "In that day there will be no light, cold, or frost. It will be a day known only to Adonai, neither day nor night. Even in the evening time there will be light. The darkness one day is going to cease. Its kingdom will fall, and the kingdom of light will rule, reign with all authority. And, that battle will be over. But, the journey seems so long right now, and how long till we get there? 2,000 years seems like a long time. And we're like a little blip in the 2,000 years, and is it going to occur in our time or not? I don't know. But, the Lord says, I've held my peace a long time. I have been still and restrained myself. Now, like a woman in labor, I groan, gasping and panting at once. He goes on with this promise, I will bring the blind by a way they do not know, in paths they have not known. I will guide them. I will turn darkness before them to light, and the rough places smooth. These are the things I will do, and will not forsake them. I kind of feel like we're being brought in a way we don't know. This is not a path that I'm familiar with. No one ahead of me has been down some of this path, but he has this promise that he's going to bring the blind in a way they don't know and paths they don't know. Eventually we're all going to see it clearly. As we struggle with all these things around us, I love this promise that through this, that, one day all his people going to get it. We're all going to get it. And even those that, of his people that seem like, what's up? Why can't you wake up and see this? We're all going to get it one day. The month of, rededication, this month has Hanukkah in it. We have another great promise in our journey home. I will put my Torah within them. Yes, I will write it on their heart. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will each teach his neighbor or each his brother, saying, Know Adonai, for they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. It is a declaration of Adonai. This entirely being dedicated. One of these days, we're not going to need a Torah club study anymore trying to explain how come up and know the Lord. Not going to need another Hanukkah teaching on what it means to dedicate to the Lord, and all his people are going to get it. Because Adonai was pleased, for the sake of his righteousness, to make Torah great and glorious. The Torah that many despise, many reject, cast away, replace, can be flat out rebellious against or disobey on purpose. The Torah, who's it from? God. And who was it revealed through? Yeshua. That one day he's going to make it. He's going to fulfill that promise. It'll be great and glorious. Bethel, the house of God. As we're all on that journey, we'll arrive, we'll get there. It may take a while. There's going to be some things along the way, but we'll get there. Behold, the dwelling of God is among men, and he shall tabernacle among them. They shall be his people, and God himself shall be among them, and be their God. He shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Nor shall there be mourning, or crying, or pain any longer, for the former things have passed away. I love that. Just like Jacob, when this all comes to pass, we'll finally be home. All thanks to him. And that's all I had.